Hi Math 6-5. This is the video for lesson 106, which is on page 548 in your textbook. As a reminder, the week 9 homework page is, the assignment page is due. The completed and signed page, your parents can email that to me or text that to me or upload it in Google Classroom. Any of those work fine. So, as I said, this is lesson 106. It's scheduled for Monday, April 6th. And you will do time test J in your test and worksheet book, which is on page 191. So if you have not done that, go ahead and do that now and pause the video and then come back for the rest of the lesson. I'm going to proceed on with lesson 106. It is on decimal numbers, and we're going to go all the way to the 10,000ths. So I made a chart. Let me make sure I can get it all on the screen for you, but where you can see it really well here. Okay, so I made a chart. Some of this will be review, some of it won't, but I wanted to go over it with you because every time we deal in a lesson that deals in decimals, if you remember, we'll end up having to write it in words. We'll be given digits like this one, and we'll be asked to write it in words, or we'll be given the words and be asked to write it in digits. And then also we'll be given multiple decimals and be asked to compare them. So there's always the same type of problems when we deal with decimals. So let's just go over and review that, the place value for these decimals. So for example, we know that a decimal point in a decimal number always is going to represent the word and. I know that's sideways, but hopefully you can read that and. I have each place value represented, starting at the decimal, going to the left as they get larger. The 2 represents the 1's place value. The 1 is located in the 10's place value. So going back to the decimal and going to the right, the numbers get smaller and smaller. So here's my decimal point. 1 decimal place after the decimal is the 10ths place. 2 decimal places is the 100ths place. The 4 is in the 100ths. 3 decimal places is the 1000ths place. And 4 decimal places after the decimal is the 10,000ths. And it's actually hyphenated. I didn't write that in there. 10,000ths place. Then we can look in those, if you follow the column down, some of these are represented by fractions. For example, if I have a 10ths place, the fraction for the 10ths place value is 1/10. The fraction for the 100ths place value is 1/100th. The thousandths is 1,000th, or in this case, it would be 5, the number 5 over 1,000. In this case, it would be the number 4 over 100. It would be the number 3 over 10, because we have 3/10ths, 4 hundredths, 5 thousandths, 6 10,000ths. So as a fraction, it would be the number 6 over 10,000. Okay? When we review that with money, we come down to the money level here. The whole number spot that is the 1s in money is our dollar place value, and the 10s is our $10 place value. Going to the right of the decimal, remembering that in money, that also, the decimal also means and. Okay. The 1 place value past the decimal is the dime. 2 place values after the decimal is the penny. And 3 place values after the decimal is called the mill. Now that is not a coin, that is in print in our circulation in our country, but it is represented as 1,000th of a dollar, whereas a penny is 1/100th of a dollar. You need 100 pennies to make a dollar. So a penny is 1/100th. You need 10 dimes to make a dollar. So 10 dimes is 1/10. Okay? So there's a little bit more place value review. So now we're going to start working problems using our place value. These are the types of problems you're going to see. So what's new here is that we have added in the 10,000ths place value. That's what's new in this lesson. You have done everything with different decimals that this lesson's going to ask you to do. You just haven't done it with a number in the 10,000ths place value, okay? So let's look at that. Use words to name each number. We've done this a lot of times. But now we have more place values. We have more decimal places. 3, 4 decimal places. And when we have 4 decimal places, we are in the 10,000ths place value spot. So let's look at this. So I always start with the word on the left of my decimal, which is 1. So I'm going to write the word 1. This is one of those problems that wants you to take these digits and put it in words. I know for some of you that's your least favorite problems on the face of this earth, but this is what the problems will ask you to do. So we need to know how to do this. 1, and our decimal point will always mean and. So 1 and. Nothing new there so far. Now, I'm going to look at this number, and I'm going to cover up my decimal, and I'm going to cover up everything else, and I'm just going to look at this number to the right of the decimal point. And if I look at that number, I would read that number as 6,432 if it were a whole number. And so that is the wording I'm going to use. 6,432. Okay? So I'm just pretending that 1 and that decimal point are not there right now because I've already covered them under 1 and. 6,432. Now, I have to say what place value we're in. What is the digit? The last digit is in the place value. And if I look at my chart and I line it up, I have 6, 4, here's my decimal. 6,432 would be in this 10,000ths spot. So my place value is 1 and then I look at this number, 6,432, 10 hyphen thousandths. Remember, it's like the word thousand with THS added. So that is taking this decimal place and using words to name it. I hope I got that all on there. Let's see. All right, sorry, I hope my paper, I may have written, let me take a minute so you can see that again. 1 and 6,432 10,000. So 1 and, cover that up, and then name this number that's to the right of your decimal, 6,432. Write that down. And then name that last digit's place value, 10,000ths. Okay? All right. Let's look at another option. Anytime we have decimals, we always deal with rounding. Okay? So round the decimal to the nearest whole number. So we look at our decimal. Which number is our whole number? The 3 is in the ones place. So we're going to look to the right. And if it is 5 and above, we round up. If it is below 5, we round down. This is a 7, so we're going to round this, and we're going to our whole number, so we're going to round up. We know that on a number line, this would fall somewhere between 3 and 4 on a number line, because 3, the decimal place here is past 3, but it hasn't made it to the whole number of 4 yet. So we're going to round up to 4. If I was to look at it on a number line, assuming that would be about 3.5 there, I would guess that this would be about right here, and it is closer to 4 than it is to 3. Let me do that in a different color so you can see what I did. I would assume that's about right there. 3 and 7,952 10,000ths would be located about right here, which is closer to 4. So that's rounding. You've done a lot of rounding. Now you just are adding more place value to it, okay? Another thing we always do when we're given decimals is we compare our decimals. When we're comparing decimals, our first step always is to make sure that both have the same amount of decimal places. So over here, I have 3 decimal places. And over here, I counted that as 2, 9, and 5, 3. Here I have 1, 2, 3, 4 decimal places. So I need to make both numbers into 4 decimal places. And the way I do that is we've talked many times that you can add as many zeros at the end as you would like, and it does not change the value of your number. I just rewrote this number since it already had 4 and put my comparison circle. So now I have these 2 decimals to deal with. So I'm going to cover up my 0 and my decimal on both of them, and I'm going to look at them and compare them. On my right side here, I have 295. On my left side here, I have 2,950, which is larger than 295. So my answer is greater than. So if I was to read this as a sentence, I would say 295 thousandths is greater than, and then I'm going to cover all that up and say 295 10,000ths. Okay, that is how you would read that and how you would determine. No matter how many zeros we add to the end, it will not change the value of those numbers, but it will help us to compare them. Okay, let's move on to another example. When we work with decimal places and place value, we always get one like this that tells us to arrange the numbers in order from least to greatest. Just like in our comparison problems, we need to start with the same number of decimals. So, decimal places, excuse me. So, in this problem, I have 1, 2, 3, 4. Write that up top there. Here I have 1, 2, 3. Here I have 1. Here I have 2. So they all need to have 4 places. So, in order to change them all to 4 place values, the first one's already there, so I will just rewrite it. Okay? The second one, I'm going to add my zeros. And the third one, I'm going to add a total of 3 zeros because I need 4 decimal places. And then I'm going to add 2 zeros to my last one. Okay? Now I have some numbers I can deal with. First, I want to make sure and read my instructions again. Arrange these numbers in orders from least to greatest. Okay? So I want to look for what is the smallest first. Okay? Well, this one has a 1, so it has a whole number in it, where these guys don't. So I know that's not my smallest. I'm not going to work with that first. So I'm just going to cover him up. And I'm going to compare. So if I cover up my 0 and my decimal, I have 9,601. I have 8,750. And I have 9,000. Out of those two, 8,750 is smallest. So I'm going to take that one and make it my first number. I'm going to rewrite it in its original form, and I'm going to cross it out because I know that's my smallest number. Now I'm going to look at my digits again. I have a 0, and a 1, so I know I'm not dealing with the 1 quite yet. So let's look at the 9,601 10,000ths or 9,000. Which of those is smaller? I know that 9,000 is smaller than 9,601. So I'm going to put that number next in its original form and cross it out. So now, if I look at my two numbers, excuse me, that I have left, I have, this one has a 1 in its ones place, so it has a whole number, and this one does not. So I automatically know this one is much bigger than this one. So my next smallest would be the one that has a 0. So I'm going to write it in its original form and cross it out. And then my last one has to be the one with 1 in the place value. And I'm writing it in its original form and crossing it out. And this is my answer. Okay? So we've done those many times. We just haven't done them where there were 4 digits of decimal places, excuse me. Okay? Number 5. We're going to write, and if I'm going to read this number, I'm going to cover this up, and I'm going to say 9,605, and I know I'm 1, 2, 3, 4 place values, so it's in the 10,000th spot. So this number is, write 9,605 10,000ths as an unreduced fraction. Then name both numbers. Okay. Whew, 9,605. I know that in the 10,000th spot, my fraction is something over 10,000. So I know the denominator of my fraction is going to be 10,000 because I am in the 10,000th spot. So my denominator of a fraction there is always 10,000. And how many do I have? I have 9,605. So I took my number over my place value that my last digit's in. So this is my fraction. Now my instructions tell me to write it as an unreduced fraction. That's important because that means I don't have to worry about what both of these numbers are divisible by and making this fraction smaller. I can leave it right there in that form and I've answered my problem. Well, part of my problem. I have one more piece. So that's part A. We'll call that part A. Now part B. Name both numbers. So in this case, when I read the decimal to you, I read it as 9,605 10,000ths. When I read this fraction to you, remember I start with my numerator, 9,605, and then my denominator is 10,000ths. So there, this fraction and this decimal and this fraction use the same words. So now we have to put it in words. So again, I'm going to cover my 0 and my decimal, and I'm going to say this word, 9,000 and then 600 5, okay, and then I need to say, where did my 5 end up in place value? And it is in the, or what is the denominator of my fraction if I'm looking at this one? And the denominator is 10 hyphen thousandths. So these words are both the way you say the decimal number, and the way you say the fraction. Okay, so you would have to have both pieces of that problem to get it right. So let's look at one more. Right now, okay, so we've taken, where was that one? Back here on example 1, we were given the digits and we were told to write the words. Now we're flipping that around and we're given the words and we're told to write using digits. So we're just doing the opposite. We've written the words, now we're writing the numbers. So let's look at our words. Write 475 10,000ths using digits. Okay, well 10,000ths tells me my place value. So I know that I'm gonna have some number that it has four, it has 1, 2, 3, 4 decimal places. So I can make blanks for that almost there. Okay, so let's look at, so that takes care of the 10,000ths piece. Now write 475. Okay, so it doesn't look like 475 10,000th. It doesn't look like I have a whole number. So I can go ahead and put my 0 in. If it would have said write 5 and, I would have known to put a whole number here. I would have put a 5 here, but that's not what my words said. Okay, so since there's no whole number and, I have to put a 0 there. Now, I have 475 is my piece that's left here. So 475, and we know it's got to land in the 10,000th spot. So I know my 5 is going to end up here. So I can write my 475 there. And then I can fill in that 0 there. Because if I don't fill in that 0 and I write this number, that is not what my words say. This number is 475 thousandths. So it is not the same as 475 10,000ths. There's only 3 decimal places to this number. You need 4 decimal places. Okay, so for, let's see, this lesson, 106, your practice problems are on, let's see, page 550. I hope I didn't write, I feel like I'm writing off the page. I'm gonna have to check that out. So, and there'll be another video coming for lesson 107.